Hello, hello, hello. Um, so I thought, why not do a little like podcast slash voice note kind of thing? I can currently hear my cat getting into something in the kitchen, so hopefully that doesn't interrupt this. But I really wanted to do like some kind of podcast voice note situation, like I just said, where I talk about the media I consume, mostly books. I mean, if we're being real, it's mostly a place where I want to be able to talk about books because I've been talking about them more and more on all of my social media, but mostly Instagram. And I'm so limited. I am so limited by words. I am typed words. I am not a blogger. I am a yapper, and I have so much to say. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. Is I'm going to be recording. I don't know how much I'm going to be recording. I want to do my for the first like episode thing. I want to do kind of like my worst and best of 2025 across TV, movies, and books, of course. But I think I know I just know I can't do them all together, or it would be like 2 hours. I don't know. We'll see how fast I go. Maybe I'll go a lot faster than I think, and I can do the worst and best in one go. But we're gonna start with the worst because that's what I have the least to say about, which is such character development for me. Because back when I used to make YouTube videos about books, before I went to law school, I loved basking in the negativity of books I didn't like. And I'm not saying I don't still like that. I do very much. I love to hate a book. But I definitely have catered more to my taste in reading. And other things as well. I know when I'm not going to really like something very much, the older I get. And so I I also don't read things or watch things. Okay, this is an overarching statement that isn't necessarily true. I was going to say I don't necessarily read or watch things just because they're popular. And there are definitely exceptions to that. Because sometimes you have to be part of the cultural zeitgeist. But no, I'm much more particular these days, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I think definitely talking about the worst things of the year will not take me as long, and that way I can get a good reading on how much I like to talk in these things. So I know if I need to post one or two or three parts of this. All right, so we're gonna start with my worst movie of the year. And I say movie because I only had one. There were definitely some other movies I wasn't a huge fan of, but only one that I actually think was a bad movie. And I'm only talking about things or okay, let's break this down really quick. Sorry, I'm all over the place. For movies and TV, I'm only going to be talking about stuff that was released this year. Seasons and movies that were released in 2025 is the only thing that we talk about. Of course, books are different. I'm reading books from all over the time period, okay? And I'm going to talk about them. I'm not going to just... If I talked about just the books that were released this year, I probably would only have like a handful to talk about. So we're not going to do that. So that's our ground rules, my voice note. All right. So let's start with the one movie that came out this year that I didn't really like. And did I know this movie was coming out this year? No. Did I know this movie existed? No. I didn't know this existed until it started playing on the screen because I saw this movie with my best friend Sabrina. I went to go visit her. Hey, Sabrina, you're probably one of the only people who's listening to this. I went to visit her in Chicago, and we went to her local theater for like a classified cinema experience where you don't know which movie you're watching. Really fun. I want to do that more. They do them here in Tuscaloosa as well, and I'd really like to go to them more, but it's what if I don't know. Tell me I should do it more. But anyway, so the movie we sat down to see, we really thought it was going to be Together, that movie with one of the Franco brothers. I always get them wrong. And who is it? Brie? No, Allison Brie. And we really thought it was going to be that. And I actually still haven't seen that movie yet and really would like to. I'm just so behind on the movie game right now. But anyways, so you can imagine the full theater shock when we're sitting there waiting for, one of the Franco brothers to come on our screen. And who pops up but Pete Davidson? Yeah, if you are also wondering, sorry for Dipper's interjection, if you're also wondering what movie did Pete Davidson release in 2025, yeah, so were we. So were we. So this movie is called The Home. It is kind of Pete Davidson's, I guess, return to screen. He doesn't have tattoos anymore, or he has less tattoos now. He's getting them removed. And he wants to be a serious filmmaker, you guys. And so he made this movie called The Home that he stars in. I actually don't know. Did he make it? He probably did. Anyways, he's a big part of it, okay? He stars in it. And the movie's called The Home, and it is based at a nursing retirement home situation. Lots of old people who are saying things that are a little weird, of course, and doing things that are a little weird, of course, and things are just kind of creepy in this place full of old people, of course, because that is what horror movies are about these days. But I'm not going to go too much into the plot of this movie because I really think you can probably guess where it goes. Just think someone sat down and watched a marathon of Hereditary, The Substance, and A Cure for Wellness and was like, I could do that. And then they made it. And no one wanted it and no one asked for it. And, I don't actually think Pete Davidson is like a bad performer. I think he's a good comedian, a decent actor, but I just don't think this project I don't think it was doing him any favors, and I don't think he did it any favors either. I don't think it was a good mutual relationship, and it wasn't a good movie. So I gave The Home 1 star, but it was a really fun experience to see it in that way because I never would have watched it otherwise. So I did definitely enjoy that. All right. So let's move into the worst TV I watched this year, and I actually only have 2 TV programs to talk to you about because I had a pretty good time with TV this year, and I can't wait to talk about my best TV of the year because this was a good year of TV for me. When I was looking up, I had to remind myself what all TV came out this year, and I had to remind myself, and it was a good year for TV. But let's talk about what wasn't good. And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is this is probably what's most fresh on people's minds, and that would be Stranger Things. Spoiler warning for Stranger Things season 5, by the way. I am about to say all the big twists. So if you haven't been spoiled somehow on the internet yet, or you haven't watched it yet, here's your warning. So let's talk about my history with Stranger Things. Surprisingly enough, I'm pretty chill about Stranger Things. I watched the first season, moved on with my life, watched the second season, moved on with my life, and so forth and so forth. I have never been super into it, which is a rare thing for me to not get super into something so popular. And I actually do enjoy the story that it set up in the beginning. I enjoy a lot of the characters, especially I love Hopper. I love Eleven. I love Max and Lucas. So, and I, of course, love Winona Ryder. She's so good in Stranger Things, especially season 1. So, of course, like, I like Stranger Things. But I will say, I just was never like super, super into it. Like, I feel like a lot of people did get into it. So, this is not as, the fact that this show ended so terribly, is, thank God it's not that heartbreaking for me. I can laugh about it, because if I was one of those big fans, like I remember how I felt when the Vampire Diaries ended, okay? I know what it's like to see all of your favorite characters and relationships start doing things that are like, what? I know. I've been there. It's not even the Vampire Diaries is not even the only example. I just think it sucks that Stranger Things was given so much budget, so much time, and so much dedication from not only the fans but also the people working on it, and Netflix, and like big stuff, big studios, for it to crash and burn so spectacularly. I do think it started going downhill in season 3. I enjoyed season 3, but I thought they were kind of losing the plot, and they were. And then I thought they kind of got it back with season 4. The things I didn't like about season 4, I felt like they had to do to wrap up what they messed up in season 3. Maybe they didn't have to spend so much time on some of those things, but I really liked the Hawkins plot. In season 4, I liked learning more about Vecna and Henry. I thought the clock stuff was really cool and kind of scary, kind of creepy, which is like going back to its original concept and stuff like that. But then you you start watching season 5. First 4 episodes I watched like a few days after they dropped, and I thought they were interesting. Here's a fun fact about me. I really fucking hate A Wrinkle in Time. So I was not, like, I wasn't, I didn't, I was really taken out of the Vecna Henry with the kids plot, because of all that. I wish they would have stuck to D&D maybe. Like, I don't know. I just wish they would have, I wish they would have stuck the cultural references when it comes to the Upside Down and shit like that to D&D. I just did not feel the need that Wrinkle in Time had to be there, but whatever. They had to introduce Holly Wheeler and her niche cultural thing that she likes. So, and I do think Nell Fisher did a great job. I liked the aesthetic of those parts. I thought it was reminiscent of season 4, but overall, of course, the middle part of the season came out, and I have nothing to say about that. It was so boring. And then here comes the 2-hour finale, and wow. Wow. I think the main part of season 5 that I was enjoying was Hopper and Elle's dynamic, and their arc. So I did enjoy those parts of the finale. Not that, I don't know, that conversation they had got weird at the end, but the scene where Vecna gets to Hopper, I thought was so good. I thought it was the best acted scene in the entire last season. I thought they really did their big one with that, and it gave me a little bit of hope for the rest of the episode. Oh, but it was shot to hell. It was shot to hell. This episode was actually laughable, in so many ways, from the plot, like how it continued going to that weird. Did it not look like they really took Beetlejuice's nachos? Anyone else really think that it looked like the sand desert in Beetlejuice real bad? Okay, like I was waiting for a black and white worm snake thing to come out. But no, they fight this big like spider monster thing, and it's such a boring action scene. Doesn't make any sense. The emotional climax where they kill Vecna is I'm sorry. Why did they make Winona Ryder said you mess with the wrong family? Like, oh no. It's so bad. It's the theories that it's written with ChatGPT, I believe. And the theories that the Duffer's ex-wife, Lee something, she's the director of all the Fear Street movies, that she took all the talent with him when she left him. I would love to believe that as well. But there's so many problems with the Fear Street movies. I don't know if we can claim that one. So I'm going to go with the ChatGPT theory. That's my theory on season 5 of, I think the first 4 episodes were written by humans before the strike. And the rest is AI. And the ending, they could have generated another ending and it would have been better than that one. Like the second try. Give Claude another try. So yeah, I didn't. And then I think the real kicker of that last episode was, I don't know if it was the direction or the writing or these child actors just have lost the sauce. But the acting was so bad during Elle's big climax suicide scene. It was a really badly acted scene. I think it was also badly directed, and I also think it was badly written. But I think the main part of what made, because I got a little emotional when I realized what Elle was doing, and then when everyone started screaming and crying, and it looked like the very first take of the very first rehearsal. That is when I was like, oh, okay. This is not a serious show. And then it continued to get more unserious and more unserious until it ended. And it's over. And I keep seeing people say that the rewatchability of Stranger Things is completely squashed. And I agree, because I was never going to rewatch it in the first place. But yeah, I do feel bad. I feel bad for the fans. I'm glad Noah Schnapp is unemployed. Poor Millie Bobby Brown, the only role she can play is 11. So that's over. She's very beautiful. She's a mom. Good for her. But this is the only role she could play. So I thought Finn Wolfhard could act, but apparently he can't. And Gaten, he should go back to Broadway. Sadie... Sorry, I blame all of Sadie's bad, all of Max's bad scenes and bad writing and all that. I blame Max's entire arc in season 5 on the Duffers. That was terrible. I love Max, so that was really bad. If anyone has a slime tutorial for John Proctor as the villain starring Sadie Sink, I would love a link to that. Thank you so much. But yeah, Stranger Things was awful. So that was the first bad television show of the year. The second one, Lord help us all. And I'm not innocent, okay? I'm not innocent. I'm guilty of this show taking over my life for the entire summer and it actually affecting my mood and my brain, and that would be Love Island. And if anyone has any tips on how to not let a reality TV show that comes on 6 days a week affect your everyday life and still get to enjoy it, please give me those tips, because I'm bad at it. But so this was my second time watching Love Island live, and let me tell y'all, what was this, season 6? No. Whatever this season was sucked so bad compared to last year. Okay, we had Cordina last year. We had Serena and Cordell last year. Okay, even the bad people, even Rob. We had Rob, and he was great TV. Okay, we had Rob. We had Kaylor. I love Kaylor and how much she cries. So, and I even Beyond the Villa. I didn't ever finish Beyond the Villa for that season, but they just have it, man. That cast. they had it. And of course, this last season with Shelley and Ace and Olandria and Clark and Taylor and Nick and Sierra, Bella, and what is the racist? What is his name? Austin. The other one, TJ Vance, and Iris. There's so many characters on this season of Love Island that I have so much and also so little to say about, because I don't I don't like any of them now. Huda. How can I forget? But we had some crazy ass moments over the summer with this show, and it's still happening. It's still happening to this day. To this day, people are arguing over this damn show, over these people, over what happened in that villa and what they're doing now. And I am not innocent, and I am so sorry. And I've got to get it. It's got to stop. I don't know if I'm going to have to mute things or what, but I don't know what I'm going to do when Love Island comes back, because I know that I'm going to be seated and I'm going to be voting, and it just better not be like this season. It better not make people go insane like this season, because I start reading I get recommended one discourse post, and then I'm down an entire rabbit hole of actual craziness. I have learned words and phrases and the way you can call someone ugly in ways I had no idea. So that's Love Island. I don't know what to do. I think it should be canceled. But I'm going to be seated anyway. So, all right, let's move on to the book section. Okay, so let's talk about books. There were some other books I definitely gave less than, I'd say what I would consider to be a bad book would be less than 2.75 stars. 2.75 is probably my own grievances. I don't know. There's some 2-star books I didn't put on this list because I just didn't have anything to say about them. So I don't think any of you are going to go audit my Goodreads to see what bad books I read in 2025 that I didn't talk about, but there are some. So we're going to just start with the ones I actually want to talk about. And the first one is the 4th or 5th book I read in 2025, so please bear with me as I try to use my brain at a capacity that it's not used to as I try to remember what I want to say about this series overall. Anyways, the first bad book I read in 2025 was Iron Flame. And I also read Fourth Wing in 2025, but I didn't think it was a bad book, which I thought was a surprise. I actually went into Fourth Wing. I forget who it's by. Is it by Rebecca Yarros? I went into Fourth Wing at the beginning of this year, knowing it's the most popular romantasy book, and that I'm extremely critical of popular fantasy books. And I didn't think I was going to like it, especially with the way people talk about it online on both sides. People who love it and people who hate it based on what both of them were saying. I didn't think I was going to like it. But I did. I gave it 4 stars. And I thought it was a solid first entry of some kind of fantasy series. I think the way both sides of people who like it and people who don't like it talk about the main character Violet is extremely ableist. I'm also not going to say the author and the way she wrote Violet doesn't. I can't speak on that. I really don't like the way fans or haters talk about that character in that first book, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about the second book, which I read right after I finished Fourth Wing, which was Iron Flame. So here's my theory. Call me a tin hatter all you want. I think this author had a pretty great idea for a fantasy series about dragons, a romantasy series about dragons. And I think she probably had in her pitch, because wasn't she like a book talker? I'm like talking out of my ass right now, but I'm pretty sure she was a book talker and she published this book. And she has other books, so it's not like this was her debut. So anyway, so I think this is her first fantasy though, or first high fantasy. So I think she had enough ideas and outline of content for this series to either be a nice chunky duology or a balanced trilogy. And I think either of those options would be much better than what the capitalist world has turned this series into, and that is stretching it to, what is it going to be, like 5 books now? It's at least 4. I think it's 5. And if you come in here and tell me it's 6, I'm gonna scream. But so the Iron Flame was such a nothing burger of a middle book. Like, you can tell that the author really wanted to get shit started, but she wasn't able to because she had to stretch this, and I'm like, feel like I'm like taking blame off of her. This still is blame on her. Like, she agreed to this. Not saying I wouldn't too for a check, but maybe I would throw around some ideas of adding maybe some plot points to my book, because it just felt like the same ones over and over again. It felt like we'd take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back and then 3 steps forward and then 4 steps back and blah, 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 blah. Like, it just was over and over again. The same arcs and conflicts we were having in the first book, and nothing was getting better. It was just the same dynamic and problems, but now her and the main guy were like technically in different places. But they still saw each other all the time because their dragons are literally mated. So I just was so bored, and by the end I was pissed. By the end I was pissed by how much I had spent my time on this, and I knew I was not going to pick up Onyx Storm. And then I saw all the reviews of Onyx Storm, and I was like, thank you to myself for having the sense to not read that. And so that's my final thoughts on Iron Flame. If you love this series, I'm so happy for you, because there are so many series out there that are full of nothing burger books that I would defend with my life. I would throw down my body to protect those books. And they are, maybe not the best. So I definitely see the hype in Fourth Wing, but I just unfortunately think that book, that series is not outlined correctly. And I have no interest to find out how it ends, unfortunately, too. Like, that also sucks. If I read 2 books in your series and I'm not even a little curious how it ends, oh, yikes. So, next book I didn't like was a book club pick. Shout out to book club. I'm going to talk more about book club in my best of the year, because I love life, you guys. I love talking to people about books. But this is a book club pick, and surprise, surprise, it was my own book club pick. My very first book club pick was a book I didn't like. I don't think it's necessarily a bad book. I wouldn't say that. I did give it 2 stars, but I wouldn't say it's a bad book. But ironically, it is called Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. This is my first Roxane Gay book. And I think I read it about a decade too late. I think the problem with this book is that it did not hold up over time. And did Roxane Gay mean for it to hold up over time? I hope so. I mean, if you're going to sit down and write something, I hope you want it to last. I hope you want it to be something that can inform and entertain for decades to come. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy a lot of parts of this book. I did. This book is a collection of essays about feminism. And it was published, oh my God, you guys, it was published when I was in like high school, I think. So maybe I want to say 2014. I should have it pulled up. But let's just say 2014. If I'm a liar, then I'm a liar. And I just think so much has changed since then, and that's not necessarily Gay's fault, and that's not necessarily the book's fault. But I do think, like, my main critique of this book and why I do think it's not so good of an essay collection, just on its face and not based on the time period in which I'm reading it, is that I think I don't know if it was Gay's decision or if it was encouraged by the publisher, but I don't know why they had her write so many essays about the overarching feminist theory and experience. Obviously, I wanted that integrated into the book, but I thought the most interesting parts of the essay collection were the essays that talked about her own personal experience, especially as, like, a plus-size gay Black woman in a male-dominated field. Like, especially when she talked about her, what was it, esports competition, video game competition, some kind of like boy world competition thing where she was really good, and she had to deal with misogyny and stereotypes and things like that, and I thought that was a very interesting essay. And so the ones who were more so focused on her experience I thought were better, but then you also run into the issue where she talked about some people in some of those essays that would not be mentioned in that context anymore. Yeah, I have a more in-depth review of that book on my Goodreads, where I name names. But since I can't remember right now, I won't name names. But yeah, it fell flat, unfortunately. And I do think I would have liked it much better when I was like 16, and that's not necessarily a compliment. Next bad book that I read was another book club pick, and here's the thing. This is all me. This is my personal grievances. This is my personal preference. This is me being a fucking stick in the mud, who just doesn't like this character or the world she lives in, and that would be Bridget Jones' Diary. I was like one of the only ones in book club who didn't really like this book, so this is, like I said, all me. But I hate Bridget Jones and everyone she surrounds herself with, and I don't think I like British rom-com humor, because I don't like the movie either. And I don't like it reminds me of Love Actually, like the style and the comedy. And I really hate Love Actually. So I think I just might be British phobic. British rom-comedy phobic, okay? When it comes to things like that. So Bridget Jones' Diary is told in diary format, which I think worked sometimes and didn't work other times. That would be my most neutral critique of the book, and then the rest of the critiques of the book is just Bridget Jones. So I was really excited to get out of her head. I wish her all the best. I know she goes through a lot more because there's a lot of sequels, but I will not be partaking. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is it's a genre. It's not even one specific book. It's a genre. there's one genre of books that I really have always struggled with since I started reading them in adulthood, and that would be thrillers. Man, I want to love thrillers so bad, and I want to find like my niche of the kind of thriller that I really love. And I think too much the thrillers I end up liking really lean too much into horror to be considered true thriller. So there's like I want a good psychological thriller where the twist gets me and isn't about pedophilia. That would be really great. I accidentally read so many thrillers this year where the twist was either someone being a pedophile or not being a pedophile, or like, you know, like horrible things that happen in real life, of course. And I know that thrillers reflect a lot of, real crime and things like that, but I think it was just end up being the ones I chose this year where I got hit with this trope over and over again. I thought it was badly handled in most of them that I read. So I'm not going to spoil and tell you which books those were, but I am going to talk, because I really do think it is hard to talk about thrillers specifically, but I'm going to name some of the thrillers I read this year, if I liked them. This is all ones I didn't like. And maybe you guys can tell me, maybe you guys can find a pattern that I'm not finding. One of the thrillers I read this year that I didn't like was None of This Is True by Lisa Joel. Another one I read and didn't like was, what is it called? I'm so sorry. I'll try to trim this out. What is this book called? Oh, Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. Bad. Just real bad. And then The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Do y'all know that I used to think Riley Sager was a woman? I used to think Riley Sager was a woman for the majority of the years I was on BookTube. And I never read one of their books. It's a man. And so I read, have I read a Riley Sager book before this year? Thinking. I have not. Okay, so my first Riley Sager was this year, and it was The House Across the Lake. Oh, man. I don't think I can read thrillers written by men. That's what I've really come to figure out with that one specifically, is I don't think I can do that, because that was such a misogynistic book. I think my review said painfully written by a man, and that was very, very true. Thrillers another thriller I didn't like this year. Ooh. The Compound, is that a thrill? Is that considered a thriller? It's the one that's takes place in a Love Island setting. I thought it was so boring. And then there was one more. Was there one more? I guess not. But yeah, I just wasn't a big... Oh, Frida McFadden. I read a few Frida McFaddens this year. I'm actually reading one right now. I'm reading The Crash right now, so I haven't learned my lesson. But those books are so good until she's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw a twist in the last chapter and ruin everything. And it's not like there aren't twists in other parts of the books. There are. And some of them are good. And some of them are interesting. And some of them are set up really nicely. And she's just got to be like, you know what? Let me ruin everything for you in the last chapter so you feel that way. And I guess that's part of the way of what you're supposed to feel after a thriller. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm going to continue this year of trying different thrillers. I semi-liked a Charlotte McConaughey book this year, Wild Dark Shore. That was a climate change based thriller. So I'm going to read some of her backlist and hopefully get into that. I might read some more Riley Sager just for the funsies of it. And like I said, I'm reading a Frida McFadden right now. So obviously I'm still sticking it out in the thriller genre to see what I can find that fits my fancy. So the next one I want to talk about is a book by an author who I think must never sleep. And that would be Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. Now, do me and Ali Hazelwood have the best relationship in the world? No, we don't. I've read a few things by Ali Hazelwood. I have read two of her novellas. I liked one and didn't like the other. The one I didn't like was Two Can Play, but I mean, it was just, I don't really have much to say about it. It was just too short for what it was trying to do. And then I've read her, is it her only young adult book? Check and Mate, the one about chess. And I liked that one. It was good. It was good for a young adult book. And I read that last year. And then I've read, did I read Bride this year or last year? I don't know. But I liked Bride. Okay. It was okay. I liked what did I like in Bride? Because I hated the world building. And I hated how the magical society was set up. And I don't really remember the main man. And I remember, okay, maybe I didn't like Bride. Okay, well, I think I read Bride last year, and I liked it when I finished it, but the more I think about it, the more I didn't like Bride, and I doubt I read Mate. But anyways, I still, she writes so much that there's still so much I want to read by her, so I'm still going to pick up the books, of course. But one I kind of wish I didn't pick up was Problematic Summer Romance. I have nothing against an age gap romance. I have nothing against a fun summer romance either. I love both of those things, and I thought put them together, that's a great recipe for a great book. Was I wrong? I was so wrong. The relationship between these two characters was one of the most immature, weird, and just honestly unsexy things I've ever had the pleasure of reading in my life. Both of them annoyed the absolute shit out of me, and I don't think they should be together. They absolutely should break up. They should not be together in any sense of the way. And they both kind of suck. But her especially, I forget her name, but she deserves better than that old grump with no personality besides being a grump. And I get that that's cute sometimes, but it's only cute when the grump has a personality around the sunshine. And she's not even sunshine to me. And there were so many characters in this book. I actually didn't think this was that, I think this book really could have used at least one more round of developmental editing. As someone who's never written a book before, here I go talking about it like this, but I really do really think this book could have used a lot of shaving. And maybe, I don't know, I know Ali Hazelwood is in her bag and she's publishing 6 books a year, but maybe we should slow down a little. Because something is not commuting to some people, and I'm some people. But people love her, despite what she said about Peeta Mellark. People really love Ali Hazelwood, so who am I to talk? Next book I'm going to talk about is a Christmas book that everyone was loving this year. And you know who was loving it this year? The people who had advanced copies of it. And not to be a conspiracy theorist for the 5th time on this podcast, but considering how everyone who read it not everyone, of course, but most people I saw read it post-release didn't like it. Y'all have shaken my trust a little bit to the people who read it early and gave it 5 stars and were so complimentary of it. Okay, now was this for my first BK Borison book? Yes. Will I still read the rest of, oh, I don't know if I'm going to read, here I go promising things. I'm not going to read the Lamplight whatever Farms books. Never in a million years am I going to pick those up. Am I going to pick up First Time Caller? Yeah, I will, and the sequel as well, because I think that concept is cute. But I'm not going to pick up her Hallmark movie books. I'm so sorry. But let's talk more about Good Spirits. So Good Spirits was my first BK Borison book, like I said, and everyone was so hyping it, and I thought it would be really good, fun Christmas read. But y'all, this book was so bad. And I've read a lot of bad romance books that involve ghosts. This is definitely something I've learned this year that I should probably steer clear of, is romance books about ghosts, because it never works. It never makes sense. It never flows. The only one time it has worked, and it's on thin ice, is Ashley Poston's The Dead Romantics. That's the only time it's worked, and it was, like I said, I thought maybe it wouldn't for a long time in that book, but it came out then. But Good Spirits, as I've just said, is the first book in a ghost romance series by BK Borison, and this first book is about a ghost of Christmas past. See, I don't even remember. I think he's a ghost of Christmas past, because he's the first ghost that visits her, okay? And let's talk about the world building. So, in this world, our ghosty ghost, Nolan, he's a ghost of Christmas past, and he works in the corporate ghost world. Really taking some of TJ Klune's nachos. If you've read Under the Whispering Door, this is eating into TJ Klune's nachos like nobody's business, okay? So, we're in this corporate world where there's all kinds of different ghosts who have different jobs. Like there's Grim Reapers. I think the second book is going to be about a Grim Reaper. But we're in the Christmas world, the Christmas section of the corporate world, and so we have our ghosts of Christmas past and present and future, and their boss, and they're all assigned to people. Now, if you've read, what is that book called? It's not The 7 Lives of... Hold on. I'm really bad at this. Thank God this isn't my job. There's this book, this young adult Christmas book I read back in the day, where a girl has to become, she dies young, she has to become a ghost of Christmas something. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. And I can't. What is her name? What is the book called? You guys. This is really embarrassing. The Afterlife of Holly Chase. Why was I Googling Holly Jackson? That is an author. Okay. The Afterlife of Holly Chase is a book about a young, privileged, rich girl who becomes, for punishment, has to become a ghost of Christmas something, okay? And I wasn't a huge fan of that book when I read it, but it was much better than whatever the hell BK Borison had going on in Good Spirits, okay? And I really don't like when... It's the same problem I had with Bride, where these authors want to write these romance books that have these kind of complex fantasy systems behind them, and they do a really shit job at building that. And obviously that's a personal issue because it distracts me, and it doesn't distract everyone, but it really distracts me. And so this book, I kept thinking about that, but I think the real nail in the coffin, pun intended, for Good Spirits, is that both of the characters, one, have no chemistry, and two, are just annoying. And like, I don't even understand. Like, I still to this day don't understand why our main character, what is her name, Hallie, something like that, why she even needs a ghost of Christmas past to visit her. And don't even get me started on, in this universe, the ghost of Christmas past visits you on December 1st. Okay, it is supposed to be Christmas Eve. That is what it is supposed to be. And I honestly think it'd be a much more fun concept to have seen them fall in love over one night. Instead, they just don't move on to the ghost of Christmas present, because I don't even know, like, how we get to the situation where we're like where the book is gonna focus on Nolan, the ghost, instead of the main character, the girl, and his history and his past and how he died and in his, I just don't know how we even got onto that, but we did. I didn't care, and I didn't think that it built their relationship at all. In fact, I just don't think they even like needed to get together. I don't remember how it ended. That kind of sucks. So yeah, it really definitely not a Christmas romance book I would ever recommend. Not a book, I don't think I'd even pick up like the rest of that series, because I don't think the foundation she created for that series is good, unfortunately. And so let's talk about we're on the last one, you guys. And this is going to be just one episode where I talk about the worst. And then we'll have an episode where I talk about the best. And I'm probably not even going to talk about my top 25 books in that episode. I'm probably going to do a whole recording of just my top 25, because I definitely have too much to say about those. But let's finish this up with and I would consider this my least favorite book I read in 2025, and that was A Dark and Drowning Tide. Is this by Allison something? I don't know. But this book, I was really excited to read. It's a academic rivals to lovers sapphic book, set in a fantasy world. And that, in the fan art, or the cover art was really pretty. And that was basically all I knew about it. And then I read it, and so this book was pro-colonization, and I don't mean that lightly or jokingly. It just was somehow. And everything that was built up, where I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be the twist. That's actually evil. We're actually going to go against that. Yeah, that didn't happen. And it went a totally different way that I thought was really strange to publish in this time and place, or just at any point in history. I'm not going to spoil it, but I don't encourage anyone to go and read this book. I have my theories about the politics of the author that I'm not going to get into or theorize on the internet, but I'll keep that to myself. But I really, oh man, I wanted to like this book, and it's not like I disliked it from the beginning. I liked it at first. But then it just got clunky, and they introduced to me all these characters, and it's supposed to be like, it was really giving like I really want to make my own Six of Crows found family type thing, like on this adventure, because they were like doing a research trip to find this like source of magic and for the king, and there's all these different kinds of people within this United Kingdom, and our main character is one of the most oppressed. And we meet all these other people who are either from, like higher up types of people or lower, and they all have their reasonings for wanting to be here. And the murder happens, and they all have their reasons for that murder as well. And I just think the book went in the most conforming way possible, perhaps, while also not doing what it obviously set out to do, which was create a cast of characters that the reader really likes and enjoys seeing interact, which was not fulfilled. I couldn't tell you a single thing about the other characters besides the two leading ladies, and even them, I liked some of their I actually liked their relationship, like the banter they had, and the way their dialogue to each other. That was probably the saving grace of the book, was their scenes of just them. But I mean, by the end, it was like, who cares? Because everything's a mess and everything sucks. And I hate your main characters and your plot because you're going against, like, you're just completely dropping the ball. You're completely dropping the ball on this political world and political problem that you've built up in your book, just because you want to tie everything up with a string and tell your reader to consider what happened. Like, just be like, oh, well, it's up to you. No. That's what your job is, to write the book and to not write it badly, which you did. So, yeah. A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. I hate you. You're my least favorite book I read this year. I will not be picking up another Allison Saft. Well, my audio recording cut off. So, I guess we'll end it here. That was all I had to say on my worst media of the year of 2025. I look forward to hating more media in 2026. And I hope that I post my best stuff soon. Okay, bye.